Kobe's already low. The color is deleting Splice where they stand. Xerxes goes. That's a flash pop Blossom. Not really going to do a lot, but Humanoid's left alone. The Rift Herald is unkilled, and only Visit Chachi remains. That was a fantastic fight for G2.
Chachi's trying to become one with the Wolf Camp, but it is not enough as Perkz picks up the ace. While he's doing that, you have Caps pushing in on towards that mid lane. G2 blow wide open.
This is exactly the performance that you expect from the MSI champion to start their summer split campaign. It has been a controlled and calculated push to build themselves up nearly 7,000 gold leads.
And they've also come back in with exactly the same style that they were playing to such success at MSI. It's strong solo lane picks, it's the ability to split the map, push lanes, and play for a split push, but also when the time is right, you can group up because of the gold lead they got from the laning phase.
All right, let's take a look at this replay. So it's just before the Herald engage.
Yeah, Kobe gets dunked with so much damage right there. He does flash out, but unfortunately, Wonder teleported straight on top of him. By the time that you reach this point in the fight, you realize G2 just collapsed from so many different angles. Splice were searching so hard for that 5v5 that they put themselves in a position where there was no escape.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think, by the way, when I'm watching this game, all credit to G2. They're playing very well, very calculated. But I almost wonder if Splice are worried about the plot armor. In many ways, when teams came up against SKT in years gone by, because it is SKT, you second guess, you doubt, you have these questions. Seeing some of the plays from these guys, like Chachi's just going to get soloed.
Well,
seeing some of the plays, Norscaron missing the ultimates, you know, Chachi getting really bullied. Xerxes been completely pushed away. I wonder if the guys are in their own heads just a little bit, because I expected a little bit more from Splice, and this is a very strong team. And now all of a sudden, Kobe's just going to kill that.
It just doesn't stop, Trav.
It doesn't. 11 kills, 18 minutes. Jankos has been everywhere, 0, 1, and 9, and the rest of the team's backing him up.
Yeah, and you can just see what G2 do. They control quadrants of the jungle. Right now, it's that northern side. They're going to get one inner tower. They're going to get two inner towers. Splice are relegated to standing inside their base. And we're just 18 minutes into the game.
Beautiful, beautiful performance. At 14 minutes, G2 had around a 1,000 gold lead. 4.5 minutes later, they're about to break open the base. They've got themselves 9,000 gold. There's an engage. Chachi's down again. The equalizer can't even kill the minion wave. And now Humanoid's forced to flash defensively. The inhibitor's going to get killed before 20 minutes. Tanglebots will lock them up. Not going to follow on the flag and drag. Here comes a pop blossom. That gets the stun. That gets 2 more kills. Still a minute and a half before 20. And G2 get the inhib.
G2 speedran games last split. They're looking like they want to speedrun this entire summer right now. 19 minutes into the game onto the second inhibitor tower. This is the best team in the world.
Absolutely no doubt. Inhibitor in the mid lane will get chunked to 70-odd% before the rest of the squad start to back away. G2 Esports. Well, I tell you what, this is a statement. If ever I had seen one, and they're coming, they're showing, they're not done. MSI was the start. We'll have to see how far they can go.
Yeah, it's almost hard to say anything to that. G2 doing so well so early on. Now I'm just waiting, you know, what is the next big thing they're going to pull off? What's the craziness that will come our way? Because that's been the fun of this team, right? Is that it's not just that they're the best and they do it in a very calculated and, you know, controlled way. It's the fact that they always feel like they bring something unique and a new element to play.
Yeah, absolutely the case. And the decisiveness is just something to behold. It's beautiful. They can not only kill the entire enemy team, but they can take the inhibitor at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, Splice just don't have the health bars to ever, you know, walk forward and provide a front line for Kobe. Kobe's got 2 items. He's like, guys, I'm doing all right compared to Perkz, but it really just is not enough. Everything around it isn't working for Splice.
Yeah, we talked about that gold difference. You can see the big spike there. It was up for a moment, just before 15 minutes, and then just flew away. Second dragon of the game picked up. And this is the opening game of Summer. After this, every other LEC team will take to the stage, and they'll be watching this game, taking notes, and trying to figure out how to topple this behemoth.
I mean, Frost said it on the desk, G2 is the bar now.
Yeah.
When it comes to international competition, we never had that before. We never had a victor. So now G2 comes back home to Europe, and your play against G2 will give you accurate details of how you would perform internationally. Right now, it's clear that G2 is just the best.
For anybody that didn't manage to tune in just before Ready Check, we had that celebration of EU and G2 esports. And in preparation and in research, one of the things that I giggled to myself about was one of the first teams that popularized this very aggressive, very proactive style was Moscow 5. Well before your time, young one.
I was not playing League of Legends when
No, you
Moscow
were
5 was a team.
And while Splice are under pressure, their motto was see hero, kill hero. G2 have perfected that. They're diving under an inhibitor turret at 21 minutes. They've taken it. The culling is going to push Humanoid away, and G2 esports will take their third inhibitor of the game. Wait for some of those super minions to conga their way in, and then take down the next.
Look, Splice have all 5 members up, but this is just one of those points where you sit back and say, this is just a G2 thing. Perk splashes in.
He does indeed. He dashes away from Norscarian.
Bây giờ thì sợt lao ra là sợt nằm trong, phải nằm xuống. Wonder tóc biến lên chiêu cuối, tuy nhiên không trúng với bất kỳ thành viên nào của phía Spy. Bây giờ thì G2 Esports đang có ý định kết thúc trận đấu này. Họ mở chiêu cuối và có 2 người đi vào bờ đá cổ của đối phương, và ngay lập tức một người đã phải nằm xuống, đó là Perk. Bây giờ thì Mikit cũng đã phải nằm xuống. Một chiêu cuối cực kỳ tai hại của vị trí Cap. Bây giờ thì Cap quay lại vả vào mặt của Nockersen.
C2 literally ran it down into the fountain, but Caps and Wonder are still strong enough to get the win. They go for another.
They are indeed. Cersei
with
gets
his own ultimate
hijacked, adding insult to injury. G2 Esports catch off onto Kobe. He's the last Splice member standing, and he will not be able to stop this. The Nexus falls. G2 Esports obliterate Splice.
Quick shot, that's still the same G2, the one MSI.
Maybe they are better.
Oh no.
I mean, that is fantastic. That is just really, really impressive. And there is no doubt that anybody coming up against this team for the very first game is going to have a tall task ahead of them. I expected more from Splice, and I know this team can do better. It is just a matter of time, and it's a matter of not playing G2 Esports. So we need to see, right? It's very early days, but all credit to G2, they played extremely well.
Yeah, G2 absolutely on fire, still sticking with the same style that brought them home an international trophy and doing it in such a clean way. They continue to impress.
I really, really liked as well, as the team walked across, seeing Mickey giving Kobe just a hug there, of course, former teammates going up. G2, they started with the bang. 22 minutes, 45 seconds. We'll have to see if they can keep defining how to play the game in the current meta, because their decision making and their drafting, it's just phenomenal.
It's so good. And the scary thing is, all we have left to do is dance. Wait. What?
What can you do? And we're going to have to start talking to all the other teams and players as well. Like, what can you do against G2? You know, that is the question. Who will stop them? Can anybody stop them? Who's going to rise up to the challenge? Those are the questions we're going to have to find out over the next 8 weeks, and I don't know if there is an answer.
So, I mean, somehow you have to slow them down early on, but even then, we've seen them in, 50-minute-long games make insane decisions and have those good calls. So it's not even as black and white as don't let them snowball on you. You also just have to be able to beat them even at the 30-40-minute mark.
Ooh, okay, we've actually got something fun now. Let's check out actually some plays from the view of Caps specifically, because you can actually watch Caps POV as well as everybody else if you go check out riot.com/proview. So here's his POV of the Herald fight.
Yeah, so he already used the equalizer. Actually, he's going to hop in here and solo out Humanoid on the side. I was wondering actually if you were going to see him, you know, go for the tower dive underneath, but this is the turnaround. It's so good. He's laughing while doing it, and the shield actually runs out, but he knows that the Flame Spitter is down and Rumble was overheating. So Rumble actually can't do anything in this fight. Caps is able to sustain up, to use his shields, just obliterate Splice.
I mean, it's actually a bit demonic seeing him smiling through all of this. The healing from the W and then just the max range skill
and look,
shots.
he steals the Rek'Sai and gets another one. It's like, okay, now I guess we dive the fountain. They're not going to show the You got to show him inting into the fountain.
No, it's tactical.
Okay.
Anyways, you can watch his POV, absolutely everybody else, riot.com/proview. It's time for Key Player of the Game at LOL Esports on Twitter. Jankos, Caps, and Wonder are your options. It's the top half of the map. I have to vote Jankos.
Yeah, I'm going to say don't let that last highlight reel play from Caps fool you. Jankos was the true MVP.
Yes, absolutely the case. We're not trying to persuade you or convince you of what to do. I can see an interview is ready though, so as soon as we're actually we're gonna head over right now to Law and Splice's coach.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you, Duke, for joining me. I guess starting the season against the MSI champion isn't ideal for you.
Let's say it's a good warm-up, but for sure, like the game was, we knew the game would be hard. We got a bit of taste of the medicine that every top team has been taking for a moment.
Và giờ anh khóc cũng chẳng để làm gì, đâu phải cho anh chuyện tình mình mà là vì em đã trao ai dòng lệ tràn đầy cầu kỳ, những năm tháng phai màu. Nếu đó hoa hồng trước kia chưa về, nhanh hơn tình thắm thêm câu thề, anh ước rằng một mai anh đến, anh đón em vào sớm mai trong lành, nhưng đó mai là giấc mơ không thành. Vì ai, vì ai, vì giờ anh biết chuyện tình mình chẳng còn gì. Khi đó xuân xa người đừng ngọt lời thầm thì, em bước sang ngàn đợi chiều điều gì dịu kỳ như lúc ban đầu. Và giờ anh khóc thì cũng chẳng để làm gì, đâu phải cho anh chuyện tình mình mà là vì em đã trao ai dòng lệ tràn đầy cầu kỳ, những năm tháng phai màu. rơi trên đường thầm thì vì đâu mưa em không đến, đường vào tim em mây rất kín, bạn chân anh trên lối đi không thành, những đêm khuya mưa buồn một mình, có khi cho ta quên cuộc tình. Từng cơn mưa hát hiu qua ngoài sông thưa lắm, khi mưa làm hồn ta nhớ mãi ngày qua, nhớ con phố xưa vẫn âm thầm đợi chờ, nhớ đôi vai ngoan em sợ trời mưa gió. Từng ngày ta vẫn đưa em về qua phố, từng ngày từng ngày anh vẫn đưa em về qua phố, vẫn trên đường nói với em hôm chia tay cây vừa chút lá, hôm chia tay ô cửa vẫn sáng đèn, hát gì lên đi đêm quá yên, trôi theo cơn mơ bờ sông trôi tràn, trôi theo cơn mơ niềm đau rất thật. Có bình yên nào không sống xa em nơi đây hay còn đâu đó, cô đơn xa xưa từ giây phút nào. Bây giờ anh biết vì sao gặp nhau biển số sóng trào, ngồi nghe chiều em gió lặng giữa muôn ngàn hoa, đi về đâu cũng là thế, buồn kia còn trong gian ngồi, thiên đường xưa khép lại từ muôn năm rồi. Nói anh đón em, anh đón em và giấc mơ trong lành, vì ai vì giờ anh biết vì giờ anh biết chuyện tình mình chẳng còn gì, khi lỡ gian ngàn, khi lỡ em bước ra đi trên mặt cái cầu kỳ như lúc ban đầu. Riêng mình anh ngồi đây, ngoài kia bao nhiêu kỷ niệm hai chúng mình, chẳng nặng sớm khi bình minh. Có biết không, giữa đám đông chợt có lúc anh yêu lòng, từng ngày trôi qua sao quá dài, ta còn yêu nhau. Hẳn kề xa vẫn mãi đến đó trước gió, và hình như anh vẫn đang nơi đây, và hình như anh vẫn đang nơi đây chờ anh. Tại sao để nhắn một lời khi nói đợi ta rất chân thành, lá vẫn bay. Hãy chúng mình chờ nắng sớm khi bình minh. Phố này lá vẫn bay, riêng mình anh ngồi đây. Ngoài kia bao nhiêu kỷ niệm, hai chúng mình chờ nắng sớm khi bình minh. Có biết không, giữa đám đông chợt có lúc anh yêu lòng. Từng ngày trôi qua sao quá dài, con tim anh mệt nhoài, tự hỏi giờ em nơi đâu. Người yêu anh thấy những lúc em ở đây, mùa đông như ấm hơn khi tay đến bàn tay. Kề môi em khẽ thì thầm rằng anh yêu em rất chân thành. Hàng cây sao vẫn mãi đứng đó trước gió, và hình như anh vẫn đang nơi đây chờ em. Làm sao để nhắn một lời em hãy quay về bên anh. Góc phố này lá vẫn bay, riêng mình anh ngồi đây. Ngoài kia bao nhiêu kỷ niệm, hai chúng mình chờ nắng sớm khi bình minh. Có biết không, giữa đám đông chợt có lúc anh yêu lòng. Từng ngày trôi qua sao quá dài, con tim anh mệt nhoài, tự hỏi giờ em nơi đâu. Người yêu anh thấy những lúc em ở đây, mùa đông như ấm hơn khi tay đến bàn tay. Kề môi em khẽ thì thầm rằng anh yêu em rất chân thành. Hàng cây sao vẫn mãi đứng đó trước gió, và hình như anh vẫn đang nơi đây chờ em. Làm sao để nhắn một lời em hãy quay về bên anh. Lại là chia tay, sao những lòng không hiểu nhau. Tại vì thơ ngây bao nhiêu lần yêu vỡ nát nữa rồi. Tại vì hôm bữa anh đưa chiến ô đã làm trái tim em có cầu vồng. Tại vì hôm nay anh đưa chết ô. Lại là chia tay, sao nhân lặng không hiểu nhau. Tại vì thơ ngây bao nhiêu lần yêu vỡ nát nữa rồi. Tại vì hôm mưa anh đưa chiếc ô đã làm trái tim em có cầu vồng. Mà cầu ông chỉ có khi mưa vừa tan, anh cũng rời đi khi anh hết yêu. Cô đơn nên em mặc kệ đúng sai, mặc kệ anh có đưa đôi bàn tay ấm áp cho ai. Chỉ cầu xin anh, em đã rất đau, đừng làm mắt em vẫn thêm buồn. Dù có yêu trăm người, trái tim không cười thì vẫn cô đơn vậy thôi. Anh ơi anh ở lại với em đi, anh ở lại. Đừng làm áng mây trôi trên bầu trời, một mình chơi vơi. Bông hoa xinh ngoại vườn giờ cũng đã xác xơ, bông hoa lụi tàn thật nhiều đớn đau. Mà người lo lắng đâu rồi?
You can leave him alone as that weak side playing top laner and try to funnel a lot of resources into the bot lane.
And talking about that top laner, I mean, Cabashot ended up picking up, second spot on the pre-summer split player rankings. Wonder was first, Cabba was second, Alfari was third, but they do very different things, don't they? Their style of playing and the way that their team plays around them. is drastically different. So I want to see if the draft reflects that as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at someone like Cabochard, you think very similar to Wonder, where he's playing lane-dominant champions. In a lot of ways, he actually performed as well or even better in some laning statistics up against Wonder, who went on to perform so well at MSI, whereas Alfari has always been the player, even when he was with Misfits, now with Origin as well. These teams have more of a focus on the other areas of the map, and he's comfortable taking a low-resource type top laner and just not giving up kills and trying to hold his own while not giving up much of an advantage.
And of course, I mean, Origin as a team, they're sort of the jack of all trades type of squad. They have demonstrated they can play a variety of styles. They've demonstrated that they can, play different types of compositions as well. I want to see what this team has been able to digest and adapt from the MSI meta, as well as now these last 3 patches coming into Summer Split, and whether they've got any new tricks up their sleeve.
Yeah, I think it's actually really cool to see how this team drafts and how that ends up affecting how they try to play out a game, because you have a player like Cold that can maybe go for something like a Rek'Sai or Jarvan and play very aggressive early on, or maybe go more control and go back towards the Karthus. You have a mid laner in Nuke Duck who can play a split push style or a team fight control mage style as well. You keep on going down, you even have a player like Mithy who's comfortable on pick supports or hard engage.
All right, now let's turn our attention to Vitality. What do Origin do to unlock or defeat this style from Vitality, assuming they come in with that same strong solo lane focus that tends to end up in a bit of a 1-3-1 type of style with both Cabo and Jizuke, who love to play side lanes?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you are Origin in this game, you take what you saw Vitality in the spring split, and that was their bottom lane sometimes going over aggressive. Instead of trying to match the fight in the top lane in that sort of 2v2, instead you can try to rely on some of the oversteps we saw from players like Attila and Jackal in the past, and try to get, one of your up-and-comers, Patrick, really to snowball him ahead.
All right, give me some champion picks now. Players are just about ready for draft. Second game of Summer Split here in the LEC. What are the priority bans? We saw some unique targeted ones. Is Yuumi blue side banned the entire time, by the way?
I don't think so. I think so. One of the things about Yuumi is that she doesn't have a ton of terrible matchups, I don't think. Okay. You can pick hard engage against her and she will struggle, but we've seen in other regions around the world, you can definitely first pick this champion. And as long as you give jungle resources towards that bottom lane, you can try to avoid the hard engage bad matchups.
And of course, we saw the Yuumi banned blue side first banned by G2, we can assume, because they've had less time to play with her or practice or get hands around it, potentially. Now let's see what happens in this game. Ryze, Draven, Aatrox taken off the table. No Yuumi as of yet, but Draven 2 for 2. But of course, it is the players that have excelled on that champion.
Yeah, it's all the Draven mains. It's actually really interesting how in the LEC we have like 4 or 5 players that just love the Draven, even though it's not a super popular pick around the world. But it goes to show that here in the LEC, it's all about early game and lane dominant pressure. That's what makes this region so exciting, because it gets very explosive very early on.
Cat in a hat, cat in a book, cat in the hat. Come on, don't ban Yuumi. Don't ban Yuumi. I really want to cast a Yuumi game. Vitality have 1 ban remaining. Sylas was the final ban from Origin. Vitality in the last few seconds. I mean, maybe they're discussing it as well. Maybe we'll find out on mic check.
Come on.
I really want to see Yuumi here in Europe. She is banned away. And that means now first pick to Origin.
Yeah, and instantly going for the Sejuani. All right, this is a more control style jungler here for Cold that he's going to be picking up.
And what I've seen when Sejuani's been locked in other regions, the likes of Camille mid lane is
I knew you were going to go there.
In priority, because we discussed it. What would need to happen to lock Camille in if that happens?
Well, it's an interesting one, because the Camille is all about controlling the river when you pair it up alongside a Sejuani. So I'm not sure. It really just depends if it's something that Origin have practiced and if it is something that they want to do. But I like this even more. At the end of the spring split, we saw Sonataric in Rotterdam come into play. We never saw it split up, I don't think, and Origin are going to be the first team to do so as they lock it in alongside Tom Kench.
And I have seen a Sona Tom Kench played over in the LCK just a couple days ago. It's going to be Siva paired with Taric, and neither of the solo laners are locked in here yet. I actually also had a Camille mid, if I recall correctly, but I would need to double check that. Let's take a look at the bans and talk about those solo lanes because they both need to be locked in for both sides.
Yeah, I think what Vitality need to be aiming for here is a very flexible option with their 4th pick right now. Because if you do that on red side, you can, in theory, get 2 counter picks. You have the option once you see what Origin want to bring to the table to match up against that. And they're going to try and take away some of the very lane oppressive options at the moment. Both sides, actually, with the Nico as well as the Renekton being moved away.
While we've got some time, tell me what Sona Tom Kench is going to do different to Sona Tarek, because I think we know Sona Tarek, but this is different.
Yeah, it is. The idea here really comes down between these two supports, where Tarek is a level 6 type of champion that wants to use his ultimate as a delayed, very powerful team-wide defensive tool, whereas Tom Kench with his W can come online a little bit earlier for those defensive properties and try to, pull Sona out of bad situations, but it will not have the same team fight presence as a Tarek will.
Got it. Earlier activation, slightly less bigger 5v5 power, so you're just trading power in different locations.
Yeah, you also have the Tongue Lash too, so a lot of times we saw with the Tarek, he would be farming in that lane because Sona would be going for the Kleptomancy and the Spell Thieves as well. So Tom Kench rather can do sort of a similar thing with his Tongue Lash.
All right, let's see how this works out. Of course, denying Tom Kench from Jackal. Not that he would have played it with Tarek locked in. Tarek, I'll switch to Tarek. Gangplank is going to be the final ban now, and Attila will need to lock in one champion for one of his solo lanes. We're anticipating that Olaf to go and move his hands. Once again, fits his playstyle as well as that of Vitality's, and they've got themselves some insurance in Siva if the game decides to go late. Jace found himself in the ban pool in game 1, and it's secured here, most likely for Cabo in the top lane.
Yeah, very interesting to see Vitality go for the Jace again. Of course, Cabochard loves this champion, but their first 3 picks seemed like they were aiming much more for a team fight style where they sort of ran in towards you. Instead, now I'm thinking the Sivir Tarek should be playing a little more safely around the mid lane and setting up wave clear options, because what we expect now from Vitality is to pick a mid lane option with split pushed potential to play around those solo lanes, and you might get it.
And exactly the case. Camille locked in with Sejuani.
But how did you know?
Not surprised. If anybody has watched LCK, or that's where I definitely found it out, this is something we're seeing a lot. But now, what do they pair with it? There's still a solo laner to lock in.
I really hope they just put a top lane to mess with you.
I'll be really disappointed. but we also saw Camille Fiora. That was a thing that we've seen a couple times. And if it's not going to be a little bit more engaged power in the Jarvan, expect that to land up obviously in Alfari's hands. There's a lot of go, a lot of team fight and AoE to back it up.
Oh, absolutely. You've got a lot of circles or hexagons with the Camille as well, a giant rectangle too with Sona ult, so you have all the AoE to start off fights, and you have, that snap ability to try and catch people out before the Tarek ult can come down and protect you. I think that Vitality see maybe they need some answers to this hard engaged 5v5, because the Azir with his Emperor's Divide has very strong self-peeling options trying to thwart that initial engage.
But is it too slow? The amount of time, I think in my mind, I see Jarvan and Camille coming online versus the likes of an Azir. I have a little bit of fear in that matchup. So let's look at the team comps holistically and step back. What's your take?
These are pretty wild here. Over on the side of Origin, I mean, the obvious, thing to point out is the Camille in the mid lane, but you see you have heavy team fight options. I think scaling into a side lane, Camille has very strong options as well, but you see so many melee champions next to a Sejuani, that means very strong early game ganking abilities. Whereas with Vitality, you see 2 very strong early game champions towards the top side of the map. We should expect to see Mowgli play through Cabochard and get him ahead.
All right, unlock Cabo, he can unlock the Azir and the Sivir, and that's how you can unlock the win. It all sounds so easy when you put it that way, and it all sounds so easy. This is a very different type of team composition to what I was anticipating from Vitality, and we see both Andre and Yamato Cannon giving each other a hug as they are meeting for the first time in the Rift here in Summer.
This is going to be a good one. I'm really excited to see how these 2 teams clash here, especially with the Camille in the mid lane. I was wondering, is this just an LCK thing, or will it be brought out here? Well, seems like Origin have been doing their homework and they came in prepared.
I want to see the results of Vitality's boot camp over in China alongside RNG. And the finalist from the spring split Origin. What can they bring to the table with a very LCK flavored draft? It's Origin taking on Vitality. Thank you, Berlin, Germany. Every time we go into game, you guys give me a lot of volume and love, and it is very appreciated. And as soon as we're onto the Rift, Vitality are already heavily invading. They've moved 4 members all the way forward into the blue buff, but now they're split up. Turk and Cold didn't quite see if they spot him on the way out.
Yeah, this is something you'll see a lot with Olaf paired alongside a very strong top lane champion. You try to split the map early on and invoke vertical jungling. That's why you see this deep ward. But Origin, maybe they want to try to do something against it. It is very difficult though, because Olaf at level 1 can reset his axes and duel just about anyone.
Yeah. And that just makes it very difficult to win any of those fights, especially when you've got 2 supports at level 1. While they can
Look what
be
they're
powerful.
doing though. They're actually sitting their AD and support in mid lane for so long. They have teleport on Sona. They're really trying to force him away.
All right, so really defending their jungle. Do you like this decision making? And of course, the cost is Attila is left alone in lane. He's going to get a couple autos and start shoving.
But here's the thing, you're not actually losing anything because the lane should push into you. But look at this. This play from Attila is actually really smart, I think. Okay, maybe he's going to turn it around, but we used to see back in the day when lane swaps were popular, you would walk forward and try to pull the minion wave in towards the bush. And what this would do is you would get the minions on the enemy side to bunch up and focus fire your front line and push back into you. That's what I thought he was going to do. Instead, they end up just pushing it out and trying to put some more pressure down.
I also anticipated Patrick and Mithy be a little slower to the bot lane, so actually they haven't missed any of the experience, and they're going to start farming up. Just one of those CS has been missed for now. Sona Tahm Kinch, while it is a slightly different flavor to Sona Taric, we've seen the Relic Shield. We anticipate Mithy to start picking up some of those CS using the charge as early as possible, but what's the tempo of this duo and when we expect them to start turning around the aggression?
Look, it's going to be very slow for a long time, but not with Mowgli. He saw Cold pathing down towards the bottom side. I want to get our eyes back on him because he's forcing Cold away from the red buff. Both junglers do have smite, and both bot lanes are coming, but look, Jack Troll and Attila have hit level 2. Mithy and Patrick have not done that.
No, definitely not. So that small advantage in pushing the wave maybe does give them that temporary advantage. By the way, Colt's pretty low. He's going to get the smite onto the Krug. So now Mowgli's coming in, Undertow's available. Big exchange at the moment, fighting inside the Krug camp. Patrick's coming back. Mowgli, what is this decision? He's going to flash over the wall. Eats a power cord on the way out, and that was absolutely not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked Mowgli's decision-making for a while there, and then as soon as he goes in towards the Krug camp and sees Cold get that, you just gotta leave, man, because there's nothing else left for you there. Mithy and Patrick had hit level 2, the mid lane wasn't being pushed in as hard, so ends up forcing away his flash and will cost him later on.
Yeah, it really did. As we flash to the top lane, Cabo Shard goes into hammer form, jumps to the skies, puts the hammer down on Alfari and shoves him in. Small CS advantage as Alfari is catching a very large minion wave underneath his tower. As it stands, even start, but it was Vitality making the first proactive moves, and again Cabo stepping forward, popping the Scry's Bloom and just getting some additional vision.
Yeah, you know, Cabo Shard does have priority in this lane, but he went for a very interesting rune choice. Now, I was trying to check and see, are people taking Unsealed Spellbook on Jace? I really haven't been able to. You know, there's a lot of Kleptomancy, summon area in the top lane if you want to harass against some of these melee matchups, as Mowgli forces Cold away and will get that Scuttle Crab, but this is either a mistake from him or a very different idea, and what the Spellbook would allow you to do is switch over to something like an Ignite if you do want to have kill pressure around certain thresholds. So if Mowgli did want to set up for a gank in the next few minutes, you know, Cabo Shard could switch that TP over to Ignite and have a little bit more all-in performance.
I actually quite like that because Cabo Shard is sort of the tip of the spear when you think of Vitality. It's sort of him or Jizuke that tends to be the defining member of their wins. So if you add that additional versatility to arguably your best player, and then on a champion that can define the early to mid game, you know, it can work, assuming that was the reasons for it. As we catch comes down bottom, Mithy and Patrick have been shoved in.
Yeah, they are, and this is what you expect in the matchup with Sivir just pushing in and Patrick just trying to pick up as much Kleptomancy procs as he possibly can. Now, I do think it's worth bringing up the mid lane matchup because we talked a little bit in Champ Select about this Camille in the mid lane, but not actually in this game. And what you'll see a lot from Camille is pre-first base, you get pushed in, especially by any sort of ranged champion like this Azir. That would happen. As soon as that first base comes in, especially once you get the Tiamat, you can all of a sudden start pushing in this mid lane. And why Camille has such a high impact in games as a mid laner is because her early game scrapping and skirmishing is very powerful. It means you have a very high ability to find these 2v2s and control the river and try to fight for crabs.
Oh, Mowgli's got no flash, remember. He's going to get jumped on. He's going to get caught. Yes, you got the scuttle earlier, but that is not a safe space to recall.
And what did I say, you can't control the river against a Sejuani plus a Camille. It's absolutely deadly. Now Jizuke has to dash away because he knows Nukeduck and Cold are both in the area. And what we're going to continue to see from this duo is Cold to play very close to the mid lane to allow Nukeduck to apply pressure and push out. And then once level 6s come in, you see a Sejuani or Camille appear on your screen and you're by yourself, you will instantly die if you're on Vitality.
Just think of all the mobility they've got in the kit, all the hard CC, and then the damage to follow it up.
Yeah, and to be clear, like this Camille does fall behind in CS early on, but it is the price you're willing to pay for that level 6 point when you can really try to find fights and snowball your advantage.
Yeah, it's a calculated loss because you totally understand, like we mentioned, those little exchanges in the river. So Jizuke now will have Mowgli pop up behind him, and he has built up a 17 CS lead. Nukeduck could be able to farm himself under the tower now, but Origin as it stands, they were gifted that kill, they were gifted the flash from Mowgli earlier, and despite Mowgli power farming, I have to question the decision making.
Yeah, the early invade was an unfortunate one, I think, for Vitality, especially because you expect Mowgli to play aggressive, and it was such a good play for him at the start, but, you know, we said the flash was going to cost him. It did end up doing that in the end, and you see he still does have a lead up against Cold. You know, the gold maybe not going to say that entirely because of the first blood that did go Cold's way, but he still is able to apply pressure and invade, especially on the top side. He'll always be able to pressure top side because of how strong Cabochard is in these fights. You can see here the tracking on towards Mowgli. Oh, he's just recalling there. Cold sees him. And you actually had Nukeduck trying to recall as well. This is just a greedy recall from Mowgli.
The Nukeduck recall maybe is what set it off. I think if there had been some comms to say Nukeduck is backed, he's recalling, that they said he's a little overconfident. But seeing those level of plays, Nukeduck, by the way, stepping way forward, takes a lot of damage. He realizes Jizuke has no mana, so there's no possible turnaround. And of course, Cold is waiting in the wings.
So Nukeduck is really greeding to try and get his Tiamat finished. He has 1,100 gold at the moment. He needs 1,325, and he's not going to get it.
No, not yet. The undertows come out. Jizuke being so low on mana. Yes, Nukeduck was greeding, but there was a calculated amount because Jizuke would have needed multiple autos to get the kill.
Exactly, but he needed the whole wave in order to finish off that Tiamat. Now that's going to make it more difficult for him to push out the lane and to be able to apply pressure alongside Cold.
Is a 30 CS deficit too much? That is the lead that Jizuke has accrued for himself right now. And you can see it starting to show in those items, as you mentioned, the thrift shopping on that Tiamat, and nearly 400 gold the difference.
I think that at this moment, it is too much, just because Nukeduck did not get that Tiamat as we see bot lane.
All right, see what happens. Patrick doesn't have access to the crescendo. Mythy's trying to get the Devour down. There's a gobble. Flash away from Attila. Jack Troll is going to be in trouble. The Cosmic Radiance comes down. That's a little bit of a damage mitigation. But here comes Mowgli. He's Ragnarocking and Ragnarolling. Your Mythy jumps on a Jack Troll. So far, it's the first kill for Vitality. Patrick and Mythy running for their lives. That's a defensive flash. Jack Troll's very low, and the heals from Patrick are doing work.
Yeah, Patrick has heals, but he doesn't have the damage to try and turn it around. Origin tried to throw everything towards this duo of Vitality, but Mowgli was waiting. Now he gets chunked.
Oh, he does indeed. A couple orders from Attila, as well as that undertow. Not going to be enough to pick up the kill, and Patrick getting close to crescendo. Jack Troll and Mowgli going back away. Vitality on the board of the kill.
Yep, they're able to respond right there. Mowgli is all of a sudden back in the game, using this Olaf to flash and pick up his axes to continue the fight on towards Cold right there. See Patrick actually really trying to step up and cancel that recall, but he's not going to find any luck.
And of course, it's important to note that the effective gold in the duos is in the advantage of Origin. You can see those CS numbers. When you add both of them together, it's around plus 500 gold to Origin, and this is how the exchange starters.
Yeah, so Attila steps very far forward and gets hit by the tongue lash. This means Origin are going to call in the play, but watch when the Cosmic Radiance comes down here from targets enough so that when he flashes away, he can't avoid it. Now mid!
Oh, there's the exchange. Shizuka's already used the Emperor's Divide, and with the help of Cabochard, that's the second kill for Vitality. They take the lead as far as gold is concerned. Cold is pushed away, and we didn't see the setup.
It's the MVP of Vitality, Cabochard, using that pressure and translating it into something else around the map. You can see he's not smashing his 1v1 matchup. It's a 5 CS lead, and he's sacrificing that so he can move down and get Jizuke ahead.
Man, it's such a unique game to cast because at 10 minutes, Vitality have turned this small mistakes from Mowgli around. They're up 1,000 gold. CS advantage is gigantic for Jizuke in the mid lane. But technically, Patrick and Mythy, with their duo, and their double support items, they're actually ahead in gold. And we're going to see that kill in the mid lane. I mean, Nukeduck, he just went for the exchange and got shoved back.
Yeah, Cabochard was on the way. You see 3 control wards lining that river so that Cabochard can make that move down without being seen by anyone. I mean, Nukeduck probably thought he was just going for a reset, did not expect this Jace to just suddenly show up in the mid lane. Jace, of all people, has no CC, no hard CC really on that kit to try and set up for that gank, but he made it work.
Well, this is a good position if you are Vitality. Getting your sort of late game carry of Azir into a very comfortable position, despite the fact that Attila and Jack Troll did, struggle a little bit as far as the early stages. They're falling behind in gold, as I mentioned. 97 CS, starting to work towards those first items. Attila's going to be very confident and comfortable moving into the team fight phase, which is where Vitality can be a terrifying beast if any of those skirmishes and fights break out.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when we talk team fights, usually with Sona Tark in the game, they're on the same team, and you always give it to the Sona Tark because they can't die. Sona has all the time in the world to give off heals, but I don't think the same is true when you're paired with a Tahm Kench necessarily. You don't have that extra duration of the Cosmic Radiance to fight. Now Mowgli wants in.
He does indeed get so much damage onto Alfari. 2-level difference, but just wrecking him with those reckless swings.
Yeah, and the best part is he's up there while Cabochard is under tower going for the recall. So you can see Vitality very aggressive as individual players.
Oh man, Cosmic Radiance used here defensively. Patrick and Matthew once again chasing all the way forward. There is some support from Nukeduck coming down, and Jack Troll is flashless, and he will get taken out. The kill, is it going to get saved? No, donated to Patrick. Very easy 2v2. And all the training against Uzi does not seem to have helped just yet.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing here for Vitality. It is, again, their bottom lane that plagues them in that 2v2. After getting put ahead from a counter gank by Mowgli, they just go down and die, not having the flashes, not being able to survive. Fortunately for them, Vitality do always play towards topside, so Mowgli is able to respond with a Herald.
It's going to be so interesting to see how the mid game plays out. If this Sona Tahm Kench advantage will be enough to mitigate the Jace Azir advantage that's been set up.
So what actually happens here? Oh, it's just a crescendo, stopping the stun from landing by Jack Troll, and even though he does get down the Cosmic Radiance, he's still CC'd, he's still eaten, so he's not able to actually escape during the duration of that ult.
Man, it's insane. Just the more time that passes, the more scary this duo becomes. While that's going on, there was a battle for the Scuttle Crab. In the Smite fight, it was Cold that ended up winning. Jizuke ends up using those Conquering Sands to slide away to safety. And Vitality, despite a minor gold lead, it's just, it's a shifting of power, as we've said so many times already. Top half for Vitality so far, bottom half for OG, but the one concern I did have, before the 2v2 happened, Alfari got wrecked.
Look at this play bot lane. Mithy goes in with Patrick.
Oh man, here comes Nukeduck. He's got the Hextech ultimatum. That will dodge the stun, but at what cost? Manages to get the shield up for now. There's the kill onto Attila. Just a matter of time as now Jack Troll is running for his life. Alfari completed the teleport. Will get himself a couple autos. There's a Mountain Drake available. While that is being focused, Cabochard takes the first tower. So they're trading kills for map objectives. Patrick and Mithy will defend mid.
Yeah, this is what we expected from these two teams. Vitality putting all their resources in towards Cabochard in the top lane, while OG go mid.
Wow, there's Jizuke running a little bit low on mana. He's got himself a few Sand Soldiers to work with. Can he send them forward? Defensive flash from Patrick, and Cabochard can't really find the shots to make it work. Cabo's teleports on TP as well. I didn't see if he TP'd him behind the tower, but it's starting to get very scrappy and fights multiple sides of the map, multiple objectives.
Yeah, Cold gonna go ahead and pick up the Mountain Drake. And while that engagement was going down in towards the mid lane, I think all in all, it was very good set play there from Origin to use that Abyssal Voyage to come in from behind here. And you can see it wasn't actually Mithy and Patrick, it was Mithy plus Cold. So it's the hard CC of the Sejuani. Jack Troll and Attila run face first in towards the Camille, who uses her ultimatum to dodge the CC from the turret. That means once that goes down, there's nothing they can do to try and battle back against 5 members of OG jumping on 2.
Yeah, definitely not going to work out in their favor, and that means OG, they're 4 kills up. They've got a Mountain Drake under their name right now and continuing to push. I mean, this Camille, now you're starting to see the strengths. Fallen behind, I was starting to get nervous. 40 CS deficit, which is still just about on the cards, is still a scary, sight. But the impact in those smaller skirmishes were backed up by Sona and Tahm Kench is really, really powerful.
Yeah, the thing I am a little concerned about for Origin is that they don't have much range when it comes to their team fight damage later on. They have a Sona, and that's just about it. So I think mid-game fights are where they really want to try and play explosively and use this hard engage to find, split fights and maybe single out some individual members. But the later we go into this game, the more worried I think for them.
All right, let's see if it's going to be more worrying for Origin or not. Mowgli's going to get caught by the tongue lash, uses the ultimate to try to escape. Teleport's starting to be channeled. Chizuke should be arriving shortly. Emperor's Divide is just about available. Gets caught by the Anything can happen. Patrick pulls the trigger, gets himself an easy kill. And OG go 5 kills up.
Chizuke was trying to go in there for the hero play for the highlight reel, and OG just slapped him 3 times in the face and knocked him down.
The question is, how do OG win this game as they push forward?
More kills.
Another poor place on the recall, and I don't know if I should be hypercritical or just sad as Mowgli's the victim again.
At that point, he's behind his tower, he's in his jungle. Now Vitality trying to find something, but it's 3v4.
Yeah, it is 3v4. Cosmic Radiance will buy some time, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. Jack Troll goes golden for now. Cabo Shot pushes all the way forward in the hammer form. The Devour is so well timed from Miffy. That keeps Patrick alive. Cabo goes golden for a second, but counter golden. All of the stopwatches are being used, and when time will stop, it will be Origin that win the fight.
Vitality just cannot kill Patrick. This man is immortal. Look at him, he's got his stopwatch, he got a Tom Kent, you can't stop him.
Patrick and Miffy are playing this duo fantastically. 3-0-3 on the Sona, and they are doing everything right.
Oh, they absolutely are, and they just need to keep pushing the pedal to the metal here. You know, usually you think of Origin as the more calm, calculated team. You know, they set up for maybe a little bit later in the game. No. They decided they're going to go hard and heavy. They go for the Camille in the mid lane. Patrick now on the Sona is 3-0-3. They have all the CC. Just throw it at Vitality and try to knock them out early.
And I'm going to go back to the question. How do Origin win this game? You don't have a traditional tower pusher. Obviously, you've got the split pusher in Camille. That's one option. But it's definitely a non-standard type of comp when it comes to getting past inhibitors and then the Nexus.
Yeah, it's a combination of now, once Reno approaching the 20-minute mark, using Camille more in the side lane with their teleport, and just grouping up death balling and finding fights. You have so many key ultimates, they're going to go for another.
There's your death ball example. It's going to be enough to push Chizuke away. Abyssal Voyage used. It's not the hugest of cooldowns, but it is technically a failed engage. It's going to be just under 2 minutes before Miffy can use that one again. And I'm looking at flashes other than Miffy. There's a lot of flashless targets that are available to pick actually on both sides of the rift because of this, the constant skirmishing.
And it's way more worrisome for Vitality not to have summoners than it is for Origin to be missing them, because they have a lot of defensive tools. They're the ones that are also going to be wanting to play on the aggressive. You know, they're the ones that will, you know, trap you inside a Cataclysm. They will catch you out with their crescendo, and you won't be able to react to anything if you don't have that flash. So Vitality have to be very cautious, and I think have to put very forward vision as well to spot out the engages from Origin before it's too late.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're Chizuke, you absolutely want that to happen, right? There was an example of him teleporting down a few moments ago, getting caught by the crescendo, and just getting done. So we're getting to 20 minutes. It is still an incredibly close game. 1,000 gold separates these teams. Cabo Shard on this Jace. He's got the Black Cleaver, Ghostblade completed. He's up 30 CS. Maybe he can be the pressure tool that Vitality can leverage while the recalls are completing here on the side of Origin. Nuke Duck again playing very far forward. He's clawed his way back into the game. And once this game wraps up, we'll see Rogue versus Misfits.
Yeah, I think now looking at Vitality, you know, they are not down that much. It's only about 800 gold, and this is a team that I don't think likes to sit on their hands. They don't like to take things slowly necessarily, especially when a team starts to beat them just a little bit. So when we see Origin trying to group up and force 5v5s, I almost half expect Vitality to try and do the same, to try to match them, which, you know, wouldn't end up benefiting them in a game like this with a composition like this until they can get a few more items to come online. Because, you know, later on, you know, 2-3 items here on the Sivir and the Azir especially, they're going to be able to do a lot of damage from range that Origin will not be able to match.
Yeah, and I guess if the sort of wombo of Cataclysm, Hextech Ultimatum, Crescendo, if that doesn't find targets, the consistent damage from Azir, Sivir, Jace is going to be very, very hard to deal with. Now, admittedly, every time Origin have pulled the trigger, they found the kills. So, all credit to them. This tower secured by Nuke Duck will even it up at 2 towers apiece. While that was happening, Vitality secured themselves that Cloud Drake. Cabo Shard doing pretty well at just pushing in these waves again.
So the main benefit Origin have right now is that they win team fights and they win 1-3-1. You might say, well, Jace is actually beating out Fari down bottom lane, and that is technically true, but because Origin have such a strong core, you know, Patrick, Miffy plus Cold, as well as that Abyssal Voyage, they can push up and then make plays.
Yeah, just like that. Glacial Fissure comes out, a lot of damage, but Cosmic Radiance, once again, Jack Troll's been very good with those Cosmic Radiances every single time, securing the important members, timing it correctly, not waiting to pull the trigger, but it's used defensively and running away.
Yeah, they do get Jizuke's flash right there, and this is a very smart play from Origin, because the next thing they need to tick on the box to winning the game is knocking down this mid lane outer turret. This gives so much safety and control over Vitality's own jungle that if they can keep it up, they can really stop OG from trying to find these aggressive plays inside their half of the map.
And we have to keep an eye on the teleports, because not only do you mention unlocking the map, but there's 3 teleports currently on the side of Origin. Spellbook for Mithy, so he can pick one up if necessary. 3 currently on the side of Vitality, and Cabo sitting with a cleanse for now. Obviously, he can cycle through those summoner spells thanks to his own spellbook. But the Baron dance has begun, and for the first time in a little while, Origin are pushing some vision into Vitality's territory, as the observers are highlighting right now. There was a line of defensive pink wards for OG on the northern quadrant of the map there by their blue buff, and they're slowly starting to edge that just a little further forward if they want to play around any of those objectives in the next few minutes.
And all Origin want to do is play around objectives and play around fights. What is causing them a little bit of uncomfort, they're getting discomfort, there you go, is not having this mid lane tower down.
Yeah.
Because again, they don't have the siege tools. You have 4 melee champions and a Sona. That's not necessarily the best when it comes to sieging.
And you can almost argue, maybe it comes down to the 40 CS advantage that Jizuke was able to accrue. He was able to farm himself up to a pretty comfortable spot. By the way, if we're looking at itemization, Patrick on this Sona has got himself the Lichbane after Archangels, and he, with the help of Mithy, will just about take this tower down. One more power chord will do it. Here comes Vitality, defensive flash. That was greeting for the tower, but it might just be worth it. Cataclysm will get interrupted by the Emperor's Divide, but there's just not enough survivability. Jack Troll's Cosmic Radiance was unavailable.
Oh, get back in here!
Jizuke, get back here!
Patrick with the triple kill. Baron is spawned. We're just 22 minutes into the game, but it was the 5v5 around the mid lane that Origin used to blow wide open.
Ain't nobody escaping Origin's baby cage, and after 4 kills, they turn to Baron.
Oh, it just falls apart like that for Vitality. Origin get everything. They even send Nuke Duck to take a tower down in the mid lane as well. The team fight came to fruition, and they pulled it off.
And you said it 5 minutes ago. Vitality need vision to prevent the Origin engage. And unfortunately, even if they had that vision, it didn't matter. I can't wait to see the replay. I want to look at where the wards are, because OG just found their opening. They got the tower, the Baron, and a huge advantage.
Yeah, now sitting at a 6,000 gold lead as well. The Mountain Drake too to help out with the sieges. This is when they really want to split up the map, because again, with 5 people, you could look for a dive. I think that might be getting a little bit ahead of themselves, but if you can send Nuke Duck and Alfari to side lanes with that Baron buff, the siege should not actually be that difficult.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, Baron plus all the kills in the tower, the gold lead jumps to 5,000. I don't look at the mini-map at this vision. Oh, once we get
we got a fun little camera angle to start off. See, it was actually Vitality that walked in first. Jack Troll flashed forward with the stun, but then you see, that's Sivir. Attila tries to get into this cage. They use the wall very well, but unfortunately, it is not enough. Origin have enough damage, have the CC to chase them down and then pull them back over the wall. Jizuke not going to be happy about that one.
I went back to check as well. Origin's pathing through the river was in between the control ward and the deep wards, so a number of Origin members just snuck up towards that mid lane tower.
Look at this!
And they got there quicker than Vitality could expect. Cabo shot will go down, and Cosmic Radiance will land up to Jizuke. Now he's in a 1v3. Crescendo catches him out. Mowgli's going to arrive. Attila's going to get teleported on top, and it is all falling apart. Vitality are trying to chase the loss, trying to turn the game around, and it is simply not happening.
Look at them go! They're not going to stop!
Simply too far. And as I was mentioning, Vitality made the call, maybe with some misinformation, and as it stands, Origin 16 kills to 3, but in the most Origin way. Look at all of the kills and assists. 12 out of 16, 13 out of 16, 10 out of 16. Every single member of OG is involved in most of their kills.
Yeah, and they're involved in all areas of the map too, because while the rest of OG is chasing down for the extra kills, Alfari TP'd into a wave that Nuke Duck had prepped in the bottom lane. Before Nuke Duck TP'd into that fight, then Alfari picks it up, gets that inhibitor, the rest of OG is top lane, so they're just systematically taking Vitality apart.
And Origin come back to the LEC after being crushed by G2 in the Spring Split Finals. The 2 finalist teams making very big statements to start their summer split campaigns. Inhibitor in the top will fall after the one in the bottom, and Origin can now start to back away. It is a different style of team comp, but it has been executed very well in the Origin camp.
Yeah, I don't think Origin want to recall. They have one more minute with the Baron buff. They're looking to end it.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Crescendo is available. Hextech Ultimatum's a couple seconds away, and Cataclysm will be used if necessary. The tower's going to fall, but with that Lich Bane, as well as, Camille just hammering away, plus Joven as well. These structures fall so quickly. They're not done yet, Ender. I think we're in for the final siege.
Yeah, OG are setting up for it. They have 3 different mini waves coming in. That's the crescendo.
There's no Cosmic Radiance. There's no get out of jail free button. Shizuke forced to flash defensively. Hextech Ultimatum locks in members of Vitality. So far it's a 1-for-1. Tarek for Camille. That is a very good trade. But the rest of OG, they take down the first Nexus turret. Shizuke takes a chunk and he tries to turn it around.
Vitality were sustaining on the fountain, but OG were sustaining with their Sona as well, so they're going to keep it going for quite a while. Shizuke trying to push back in there, because if Vitality were going to win a fight, that was their best chance before Origin had gotten back to base and bought. But with the last seconds of the Baron buff going away, Origin have taken all 3 inhibitors.
5,739 gold Baron power play. That is exceptionally good use of the buff. And it is just moments away from the game. And I was trying to say beforehand, the 2 teams that made finals, they are coming into summer showing they're prepared, they are ready, and they are not messing around.
There will
No, they're not.
always be
And
someone who is
if you would
better.
be as kind to
And
direct your
that's the
attention to
privilege of
Patrick's
being
acquisition
conquered by
after we see the damage dealt over the entire game, you might notice that that's a
How proud
906
you are of
Sona
your
with a
abilities.
death cap, a
Like
fully
an ape who just
fully
found
stacked
a
Sarah, you got Lich Bane as well. Yeah, hurts.
It really does. And I mean, and again, here comes Miffy and Calder. That's a Tom Kench Sujwani running down Sivir. High edge Essence Reaver simply doesn't matter. Mobley, no flash available. Woohoo! That damage! Eating the power
I'm
core.
telling you, he hurts.
Cool guys don't look at explosions. The moment Patrick fired that spell away, turned and burned, and Mobley drops.
I mean, Patrick's doing that much damage with just a harp. I don't even know how that happens, but look at him go.
There we go. Flash crescendo. Patrick's playing with a confidence that is beautiful to see. 17 kills already involved out of his team's 20. Kill participation through the roof for Origin. 11 kills to Patrick, as the last Nexus turret is being focused down by Alfari. Shizuke is just toying with Origin right now. And the ace for Patrick in Origin. They take down Vitality.
see Prophet return to the roster. I think kind of the two core members that Rogue really made a lot of success with in spring was when Prophet was playing, and then when they did bring in Vander. So I'm excited to see them kind of reunited on this LEC stage. I think Rogue, when they're successful, it's because Vander is on a playmaking-oriented support. We hear all the time that he supposedly has a very loud voice. Haven't listened to the comms yet, so can't confirm that. But I can definitely tell when my eyes are looking at Rogue play. If he's on something like a Galio, they seem to be much more decisive and very fast tempo around the map. So I really want to see them get the firepower. Like something like a Nautilus would have been great for
I was
Vander.
gonna say, speaking of the playmakers, Nautilus now locked in. I think almost exclusively seen in a support role after those first few games in the play-ins at MSI that he did see in the mid lane, but would love to see it mixed up a little bit as Rogue now debate their options. But already a very long champion selection that each team is letting this timer tick down as far as they can before they lock in those picks.
See, I'm really curious that Misfits went for high priority on Nautilus. Like you're saying, it can still be a flex pick, so maybe trying to hide their cards a little bit, when I still feel that Rek'Sai is in a really stable position, a very strong position in this meta.
Now the Rumble locked in as well. It was seen top lane earlier today, and the Splice came in the hands of Vizichachi, but I do think Rumble mid is an interesting option.
Yeah, we've heard the rumblings of it. I like the fact that they have the Sylas on their team this time around, so like Sylas will not screw us over on the other side by taking Rumble ultimate.
Yeah, Sylas stealing Rumble ult is the most toxic thing in the world because you pretty much play Rumble for the Rumble ultimate. Just get a better Rumble in your hands, but it will be the J4. You got a strong solo laner in the form of the Jace on the side of Misfits, and you have two fantastic form of Engage. Now, of course, it is Engage that Sylas can take away. We did see Faker stealing Nautilus ults earlier in the day and saw how oppressive it can be, but I like Misfits when they do have Engage options.
Yeah, and that does put a lot of responsibility on whoever the Sylas player is going to be for this Rogue lineup, because so far there's not a lot of really hard engage tools for Rogue. Yeah, you can drop down the equalizer and try to run up on to your opponent, but you are really looking at Sylas to grab these big ultimates like the Cataclysm, like the Depth Charge, and look for these initiations, whereas Misfits already have a really well-rounded comp. They have a good early game powerhouse in the Jace, really hard engage, so if that Jace starts getting snowballing, you're able then to immediately pull the trigger and start punishing teams if you find a lead.
I wonder if we do see the Jarvan used potentially as a solo lane pick. Jace in the mid lane, not something we've seen a ton of. I feel like it has to be utilized in the top lane, but whenever we cycle to a new patch, I'm always caught wondering about things that were flex picks in the past, or in the case of Jarvan, things that we've already seen used in those solo lanes. Cassio, Sona, Sivir going to be the ban, so two pretty solid late game threats limited from the side of Rogue. Misfits does not want to see them on the opposite side. What is the final ban going to be here as we enter the second pick phase?
Seems like they are trying to clear up that mid lane. Curious if that does mean that the Rumble goes in there. I'm not super familiar with a lot of Rumble's mid lane matchups.
I think we keep saying it because we're afraid that we're going to get that, like, the classic, like, how did you guys not know about this one thing that, like, 3 people have been playing in solo queue thread on Reddit? But we have to leave the room for doubt, Frostgurren.
I've come to accept that heading into Champion Selects until things start really settling in the meta, that I just buckle up and I'm just...
We're along for the ride.
You teach me.
And that's an Elise locked in, so... That's a Jarvan solo lane. That's a lot of AD on the composition. Elise will balance that out nicely with some AP damage in the jungle.
It does lend to very strong dive potential between the Jarvan and the Elise. We talk about this a lot, that when you're bringing mixed damage profiles, it makes it really difficult, especially in the early game, to try to do anything about it. Like, you can go home, you can buy your resistance boots, but then either the Jarvan or the Elise are still going to make an absolute terror for you. So the dive potential very strong for Misfits if they want to use that Jarvan Elise together.
Absolutely, and of course on the opposite side we have a very heavy AP damage profile for Rogue between the Sylas, the Rumble. Bit of a split on the Kai'Sa, a bit of AD though in the hands of Rek'Sai, so it does balance out a tiny bit. And you talked about playmaking, engage, focus supports for Vander, about how much better this team looks when he is on one of those champions, and Rakan feels like it fits the bill.
Yeah, hopefully he has a bit of a stronger performance. I think like Norskaren really struggled to make the champion work earlier on today. I'm not super sold on where I feel Rakan really ranks, especially when Miffy showed how strong Tahm Kench can be into a lane. But it's also curious to me that so many teams have just completely moved away from Galio. He was hit on the recent patches, the 3 patches from MSI into this point, so the fact that Rakan is now eking over such a very strong engaged champion is quite curious to me.
And I'm excited about a lot of things in this draft. I'm excited about Hansama back on Lucian. Once again, a very lane-dominant AD carry paired with something aggressive like the Nautilus, but on the opposite side, Inspired, a guy that we have not really seen on the LEC stage yet. He is so good at this Rek'Sai. We've seen him single-handedly take over games in the Polish League. Yes, was not as good in EU matches in the most recent showing, but Gonna give him the benefit of the doubt as we head in here, say that he is a player that we have to keep our eyes on. Because you look at this draft, I feel like we're set up for some pretty explosive early games.
It kind of feels like teams right now are playing around the one item power spike, and as soon as they have that, everything, like you said, starts exploding, and we gear up and run full speed into each other. But otherwise, we've had some very slow 1 through 6s, and I hope that with the rumble in this game, we get a bit more impact out of that level 6, level 11 with those big equalizers.
Have to see what the execution in the team fights looks like from Rogue. Once again, Vander, kind of that veteran voice that we expect to come through for the team and guide them in the early to mid game to make some of those bigger scale plays. And on Misfits, we just want to see what this version of Misfits is going to look like. How is their style going to be defined? Will it be the bot lane focused Misfits that we saw at the start of last season? Will they look lost on the map? Or will they show us something new? So many questions are going to get answered in this first game. Both teams, a lot of time to prepare coming into this season. New patch, some new faces on the side of Rogue. And I think it's time to find out exactly what form both of these squads are in.
Yeah, can Rogue find the success that they had in the Polish League and bring it to the LEC? And will Misfits finally live up to expectations?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rogue versus Misfits. Almost sang along during that. Turns out my mic was still hot. Luckily for you, audience, I didn't. Terrible singing voice. Now, Misfits grouped as 5 for the level 1. Seems like they've been seeing some cheese and scrims, and they want to stop it. But since it looks like we might not get a whole ton of level... Actually, I'm going to hold that thought. Frosco, we got a level 1 setup potentially coming through. Rogue on the invade.
Yeah, I think it's in response to Vander. Now, we did see this becoming more popular when the Rakans take the cheeky W, and then they can slip in underneath your vision, wait until the cooldown comes back up, and then catch you off guard. So you are correct. Misfits did 5-man stack, but I think it was in a lot of respect to the fact that not only has Vander pulled off some crazy Rakan stuff, but we've seen it internationally as well as domestically last split.
Of course, yes. Hill was saying, Fnatic known for those surprising, aggressive level 1s. It is kind of part of the identity, I feel like, of the LEC. Now you see Misfits going to opt for the leash here onto Maxor, get this guy started on the bottom side of the map, set up now to play around top side if he wants. That's the mixed damage profile you talked about earlier. On the bot side, on the opposite side for Rogue, not going to get an advantage for themselves as they do also opt to leash for the jungle.
Yeah, and I expect the initial jungle pathings to be pretty soft and pretty quiet for the most part. It feels like the day has been, okay, maybe a bit of a gentleman's agreement in terms of our laning, and then on the initial item power spikes on level 6, that's when things really start speeding up.
Let's see. Top lane is an interesting one. Jarvan versus Rumble is a matchup that I have not seen in a good while. I like that Rumble is coming back, always an exciting champion, you know. Level 6 is going to be a big deal, but for those of you who haven't had to play against Rumble in a long time, still a very obnoxious lane bully. Flame Spitter, an incredibly powerful tool, and just a lot of actually just tons of damage built into that kit.
And I was actually curious what Keystone Soaz was going to take. So it has the grasp. We've seen a couple of different iterations. I think it was Wonder that brought to the LEC by pulling out the Airy and then trying to compete with Poke and like drop your flag multiple times. That was in a range matchup. My only concern here is he needs to be really conscious about how he plays around the windows when the Flame Spitter is on, because obviously he wants to get up close and personal to really make the most out of that Keystone. So props to Soaz there. He's definitely a legendary Rumble player himself.
You talked about the gentleman's agreement. Doesn't look like it's going to be one. The flash forward, the first blood for Inspired. We said keep your eyes on that Rex side. Febiven did not listen, and he will drop.
But you can see why Febiven thought that he was okay to be there, because Maxlor was on that side of the map. So unfortunately, Inspired gets right in underneath him and makes it count.
Prophet now collapsing. They know exactly where Maxlor is. Febiven has TP back to the mid lane, but they will have a man advantage here. Inspired, no flash available. Larson is going to step forward. Prophet on the way in. Febiven now running for his life. Maxlor can only watch as his mid laner is set to fall. Febby running, can form swap in a second, but the knockup is there. Another kill. 2 for the Rek'Sai. 3.5 minutes into the game.
And Salt in the wound right there to immediately decide, let's punish it again. We know he doesn't have flash. He just TP'd right back into the middle of the lane, and Rogue sprint at Febiven.
Brutal start. You expect the range advantage for Jace to give him a little bit more in the early laning phase. And now it's Maxlor who's going to be picking up CS, so while he himself may have normally had a lead, the 2 kills on the Rek'Sai going to nullify that, and things are only going to get more difficult here for Misfits in this early game.
Yeah, taking a look at it, the thing about Rek'Sai is that you have to get used to her gank angles, her ability to get into the lanes by how she can use her tunnel, just catches Feathervin off guard. But again, Maxlor was on that Raptor camp, so just a second later he comes around that corner and they have vision of that type of gank. So, game of inches.
Absolutely. Now, stun comes in when we watch this one, and this is... It's just sad, because you're watching the Elise stand on the outside and slowly watch his mid laner die.
Yeah, the first gank I can forgive because I can see that TP into immediate punish on having the flash.
Fight fire with fire, Frostgurn. Hold that thought. We're going to dive a tower. That's what it's going to be all about. Maxlor throws the cocoon forward. Not going to connect. Woolite still alive into that tower. Flag and drag goes in. Eyes on Woolite is going to drop down in the end. Spider only going to take him out, but Prophet level 4 still in the bottom side of the map. And Misfits fire back on a clean dive.
This is a completely different pace from the first 2 games that we saw, and I am very excited for it. So we said we were going to buckle in. I feel like I'm locked into a roller coaster right now.
Look, sometimes you want a game of chess. Sometimes you got to wrestle in the mud. Misfits and Rogue, they're looking to wrestle in the mud. Larson walking back to lane, but I don't think that's how the win wants to go back. Instantly going to go in. No mana, though, on Feathervin. Well, the form swap available shortly. Can get a little bit more damage out on the empowered auto, but the healing is there. He walks away. Oh, if Feathervin had mana, he would have gotten the kill, but they just did not have the damage.
And disappointing, trying to punish Larson, walking back to the jungle, trying to find that footing back into this lane phase, and it's now a full reset as Inspired is here again.
Feathervin.
He can't approach the wave.
He can't do it. He's thinking about it.
No,
he's going third time is the charm. The third time I approach the wave, he won't be here. But Prophet's there, so that will give it away. So Feathervin is going to play with a bit more respect. And we have a brief break in the chaos of these first 5 minutes, Frostgurn. How bad is it for Misfits right now? Obviously, there's not a significant goal difference, but Jace being down 2 kills in the mid lane does feel like a bit of a hill to climb over.
I mean, obviously, it always feels better if your Jace has more gold. I don't think it's the end of the world or that the game's over. I think it's interesting that it's Inspired on the Rex side that gets the 2 kills. I mean, maybe you say it's completely different if some of that gold goes into the pocket of someone like a Rumble or like a Silas. Although we'll keep our eyes on Inspired's build path for Rek'Sai if he wants to really carry.
Say Infinity, I dare you. Somewhere Ender will come screaming onto the desk. Very upset. Obviously, Rek'Sai with Halo Blades very strong in the early game, so we have to see kind of how Inspired uses this lead and see if he can be the sort of player who will snowball his team to greater heights when he is given an advantage in the jungle, or if we're going to look back at this game and go, hey, I really wish the mid laner had gotten those kills. Now, the knockup is going to come in from Vander, though. Freedom to leap in and leap out with the Battle Dance. Walks up with the damage, but Hansama very comfortably in control of this lane. And one thing that, in the midst of the chaos, we kind of glossed over is the absolutely massive CS discrepancy on the bottom side of the map. 24 to 67. Maxlor here on the bottom side will match the jungler, and Hansama going to keep pushing forward. He's going to try to stick around to make sure he gets the plate as well, so going to be a huge gold difference between the respective AD carries.
But I already really like the changes that Misfits have done. It feels like they went back to ground zero, and they're like, okay, when did we find success? Well, it was when we played towards Gorilla and Hansama and really allowed them to be aggressive. So give them a lot of firepower, the Nautilus, the Lucian, and Maxlor is constantly bouncing, yes, in response to the mid lane, having a lot of pressure put on it by Rogue, but then making sure that he's giving power to Hansama and Gorilla that they can be so aggressive to open up invades like this.
And honestly, when you see that first play in the mid lane, you start to worry for Misfits, but then you look at the CS on the bottom side of the map, you look at how well things are going for Hansama, and you start to get that confidence back. Because remember, when you look at this lineup, there's obviously a lot of all-star talent here, but Hansama always felt like he was supposed to be the carry of this Misfits team, and he is in a massive advantage state. The second he buys, he's almost going to be able to complete that entire first item. They're not even going to wait for that item to come through. They're going to try to force something here. Hook goes in onto Vander, saving the Battle Dance. Can't try to walk away, but he's just going to get bursted down. Hansama grabs the kill. The CC layered perfectly.
Yeah, Vander had his flash right there, but didn't expect to get snagged up and to be locked down so successfully. So great work from Misfits bottom lane, and they have full control of any of the tower clicks that they want. The CS discrepancy, 37 to 85, is only going to grow.
Have to see what the first back looks like for Hansama, because this is going to be massive. Now Inspired, you can see and Larson posturing, moving towards the top side, ready to threaten a die, but so as backing off, giving the respect that it deserves. Maxlor will take the solo Cloud Drake. It's going to take a while, but doesn't look like anyone is coming to contest there. And a 1K gold lead for Misfits, building up off the back of that bottom lane and the pressure that they have put down. Not quite the entire Blade of the Rune King, which, you know, may be disappointing for Hansama, but of course when you compare it to his opponent, You've got 3 daggers worth of gold there on top of a boots, 1,200 gold in items versus, well, a lot on the side of Hansama.
And Misfits can continue to play rather aggressively around their bot lane because Prophet still doesn't have access to his TP. Now, as soon as that cooldown comes back up for the Rumble, then maybe you need to change some of your thinking or your tactics about how many resources you are going to put down into that bot lane. Or there's the conversation where Max was like, okay, we've got the vision control of bottom side river, bot lane's in a great spot, maybe this is now the time that I start to give some of my time elsewhere in that mid, in that top lane. So it does feel like Misfits are now back in control of this early game and kind of get to pick where they want to be, at least until Rumble has that TP and gets unlocked on the map.
And as he gets closer to the TP, also important to note, has passed level 6, the Equalizer available as well. We have the ultimate coming in from Rek'Sai, so the potential damage here, as well as the potential to reset tower aggro. Soaz is going to have to play careful here. Of course, diving a Jarvan, never something you really want to try to pull off, but diving a Jace, perhaps an easier prospect, as Inspired does posture on the mid lane. There is already the control ward there, so he knows he's safe to push forward. And look at that vision on the top side.
And this is Soaz just recognizing that he's weak side right now, so he needs to respect it, and you can see that he's constantly skirting down into that bush. He's trying to check, are they setting up for the dive for me? Because Misfits have made a very conscious decision. Everything is going bot lane. It's really on Hansama and Gorilla.
Grabbing so many plates in the exchange, and now trying to transition some of that power into the mid lane. Devin, of course, stepping forward. You can check out their perspective on Pro View. But now a stolen ult could be a key to get the fight kicked off. Gorilla has to be careful about stepping forward. Early game, of course, Aftershock relatively the same as we saw it on 9-8, same at level 1 at least, but it does get weaker without convenient stats. Now the Equalizer does go in immediately, the Rakan engage, the flash is out from Misfits, a perfect disengage on the backside, but still Rogue are looking for a little bit more. Gorilla steps forward, looks for the re-engage, we pause for a brief moment, contemplate our options, and realize that Inspired might just be going down the flag and drag forward, so it's holding on to Cataclysm, is going to use it on 2, force out the flash, force the dash out as well from Larson, and Vander will drop on the backside as Misfits take the fight.
And you can see what Rogue were trying to say. They're like, okay, we're just going to go towards where the Rumble is. We're going to play around the Rift Tail, get our bot lane away from Gorilla and Hansama, and see what we can make happen around Sylas getting a hijack ultimate. Unfortunately for them, Misfits disengaged from the fight and then had more ultimates, more cooldowns to work with once all of the hard engage had been burned by Rogue without any sort of success.
And Misfits, of course, positioning themselves in such a way that they were incredibly vulnerable to that Equalizer. But they knew it too, and were so quick to pull the trigger to get out of that situation, because on paper, that was the ideal Equalizer. Choke point into the enemy jungle, that is the dream for Rumble. But when the enemy team can get out of it so quickly, when there isn't really any follow-up, when Vander misses the connect or gets flashed away from, you just don't get anything.
I kind of have the same rule about Rumble that Deficio has about Shen. Now, Deficio's rule on Shen is that anytime he's in a game, the first 2 ultimates are the most important. And if they don't bang, then you're probably going to lose the game as Shen. For Rumble, I feel like the first 2 ultimates are the most important. And if they're not absolute bangers, then it feels real bad from that point forward.
It's like a giant fire rock. You make it sound like he's dropping the base of banger.
That would be such a good skin!
All right, we'll talk about alternative career paths for our mutual genius later. For now, Misfits moving down to the bottom side. And once again, should be a pretty easy setup. Inspired is here as well. We'll see if he can move fast enough to stop this dive from coming through. Inspired on the way forward. Prophet still quite tanky. Equalizer does go down. They're moving away from the knockup. Inspired now looking, trying to find it. Soaz moving away. The flag and drag will be up shortly. They're stepping back, trying to move towards Maxwell. The cocoon connects. Soaz is still alive. Misfits are walking away. No! The Brave Seeker, the fadeaway shot will grab the kill.
Too much, trying to look for the fancy feet where it walks back into it. Meanwhile, top.
Vander's burning down. Of course, they're getting stat checked at this point. Hansama is simply too far ahead. Yes, you have a stopwatch, but you don't do any damage. Hansama grabs 2 in the process, and all too easy for the Misfits 80 carry.
And Gorilla is back in form. That was a beautifully executed dive with the stopwatch right there. I had a lot of issues with Gorilla in Spring Split. I felt like he wasn't living up to the hype. A massive name behind him coming over from the LCK to the LEC looks much cleaner this time around.
Absolutely does. Larson now moving up to the top side. TP is coming in. TP responded to as well. Have to be careful. Prophet getting locked up. Gorilla willing to give his life over here. So it's not stepping forward, but just gonna throw out the Dragon Strike. There's another flag. Larson is on the backside. Have to be careful on this one. Cataclysm now coming in, stealing the culling, trying to hide behind the minions. Larson moving forward. Goes Golden right on top of it, trying to make it out. The shutdown comes through. Just point and click on the Kingslayer there as Larson will try to walk away. But meanwhile, the Rift Herald has been summoned mid lane. Misfits responding with a play of their own. Lots of towers going down. Only 13 minutes of the game. The plates were still up. Massive influx of gold in the favor of Misfits. A 4K lead, but now Vander wants to turn it back. Inspired stepping forward. Knocked up. Featherman now in trouble. He's going to move into the middle of the team to give his life so Maxlor can escape. Good punish from Rogue, but still massive lead to Misfits.
Now that said, there is two massive shutdowns given to the two primary carries for Rogue. It was Larson who picked up the shutdown onto Hansama, and it was Woolite who just picked up that shutdown right there. So, okay, a couple of things. Gold traded really well back for Soaz because he made sure that he was there to get all of those plates. So this guy who was playing weak side for majority of the early game now should be feeling very fat and happy. On the other side, again, the shutdowns into the two key players that Rogue needed to beat, and it feels like neither team is really choked out of this game just yet, and probably the next two fights will decide it.
We'll check out our pro view replay from the perspective of Hansama, how he played this one out. Just good use of the dash there, and honestly, an unfortunate first stopwatch because it just meant that Woolite was going to take the damage, and you can tell Woolite looking for the big play, but 3 stopwatches used, and Gorilla is able to walk out. So overall, Misfits bot lane domination. Not something we've seen since the start of spring, but always nice to take a look at it once again.
It's hard because recency bias, you just want us to take a step away from Misfits, but we need to cast our minds back. They had that like 15-minute game against SK where they just absolutely smashed opponents through that bot lane.
It's not Morgana Draven, but I will definitely take the Nautilus Lucian in terms of aggressive bot lanes. And while Inspired, I feel like, has looked pretty good in this game, while Larson has gotten to look good, the bottom lane for Rogue has been suffering. Woolite put so incredibly far behind. You talked about 1-9 power spikes being important for Misfits. Well,